for coming today. Just like last time, today is going to be an informal and kind of unstructured workshop where you can ask your questions. And those of you that have brought your mics, that's great too. If you'd like to ask your questions in the room using your mic, just let us know. No problem at all. So again, today it's going to be unstructured, but if we don't have any questions, we do have a few things that we can show you. And Zach as well has mentioned that he's going to demo some of Bercy's questions. But let's open the floor right now and see if anybody's got. Okay, we got a question from Alfred actually. Alfred asks, "Hello guys, can you also say if the finished strategy can generate an email as a signal, and if it can be hosted on a VPS?" Hosting on a VPS, as far as I know, is not an issue. I know there's some the licensing stuff through NinjaTrader is all handled kind of on the NinjaTrader side, and as long as the machine IDs don't change, it shouldn't be an issue. I have to preface that I've never actually tested it, but I can certainly, when we get to the point with you, Alfred, we can make sure. We'll make sure it works for you either way you look at it. But there shouldn't be any issues with it working in a VPS. In terms of sending an email, BloodHound is currently not equipped to do that. And certainly you can create a strategy that can send an email when you see a signal. And Alfred, actually, I would be happy to help you set that up. I think that would be actually fairly trivial to do. But I've set a kind of a note in my planner here to get back to you on that. So maybe we can take this offline, and I can talk to you about setting up an email alert. Anna Graham asks, when is it appropriate? When it is appropriate, and you have time, please consider the following questions. And I guess we're waiting for those. Randy O asks, go ahead.
Yeah, Randy, I'll type the answer on here, but this one I got from the customer, Ken. But there is a free one. Hey, Jeremy, I'm here on from you.
Yeah, I'm just going to hit my headphones on.
On BBMACD.com. It looks a little different than this, but it's the same thing. So.
Okay. So Randy, Zach is typing in there the link for the BBMACD. Rahul asks, I want to learn better the use of headwind, tailwind ideas for support resistance, and also the ratio nodes to see the effect of different indicators on the signal. So, yeah, sorry, Rahul, about the echo. I just didn't have my headphones on like I promised I would. So, can you guys let me know just in the chat window if the audio is better now, or if you hear an echo? Is everything okay? Okay, great.
All right. Okay, so let's see. Next question. All right, shall we jump into headwind mode and tailwind mode?
Yeah, sounds good.
So, all right, I'll use what I have up on the chart. So this is a 55 EMA. And that kind of will play in with a demo that I had planned for today, which is various ways of analyzing this MACD BB in trying to detect rollover conditions that might occur just before the MACD rolls over. So I'll get to that later when we're done with questions. All right, so I'm going to go into, I already have BloodHound instantiated, but we'll just start from the beginning for those of you who aren't familiar with BloodHound yet. So to instantiate BloodHound, what you need to do is go into the indicator panel, and of course you'll add BloodHound to the list if you don't have it on there already. So you add it on there, and I already have BloodHound on here. And the first thing that needs to be done is to name your template, so you have something to work with. And we'll just call this, let's see, there we go. Since I already had it instantiated, I had to hit the change button. And I'll call it training. Save it. And so now we have a name for it. Click the OK button. You can see the name shows up here now. And then I can click OK. And remember, right now I was in the indicator panel. And now we can see up here we have a button called Training. And if we click this button, this will bring us into what we call real-time mode. And we call it real-time mode because once we start adding solvers, it's going to modify BloodHound's output in real time as you're working with it. So, Raul wants to work with the SupportResistance solver. Let's move this over. Okay, so I have the solver selected, and hit the Add button. And now we can see it. As soon as we added it, BloodHound started giving us, an output. And just I guess by default, BloodHound just gives us a long and a short. But as soon as we start modifying it, it will modify the output at the same time. So what I'm going to use, so what I have up on my chart is the EMA 55. So I'm going to use that as my indicator for the support and resistance line that we're working with. And by default, the support resistance solver defaults to headwind mode. So I'll go through and explain that first. And we're using an indicator. So this parameter here, use indicator, need to set that to true. And now we can see this indicator section opened up for us. And I'll change the indicator to the EMA 55. So I'm going to jump down to the EMA and double click on the indicator and it'll drop it down, or I can hit the Add New button and it'll drop it down. And I'm going to change my period to 55. Click OK. So now the support resistance solver is using the 55 EMA. Now I just need to go in there and adjust my my distance targets to something that we want, to something that's more reasonable. So I'm working with the gold futures contract, and right now I have my chart grid set up for 2 points. Right, so we have 60 to 62. That's 2 points, which is 20 ticks between each grid line. So I'm going to, just for the sake of making it easier to visualize, I'm going to set the requirement, well, actually in headwind mode. Headwind mode, I'm going to set the requirements for that for, let's see, I'm just looking at my chart here, see what looks reasonable, to 30 ticks. And as soon as I get this in here, I'll explain what's going on. So I want my ideal distance to be 30, and I'm going to change it from ATRs to ticks, and set minimum distance to 0. And I'm going to take the no support resistance off. It just kind of helps to visualize what's going on. So, all right, so we're using 30 ticks of, essentially when you're in headwind mode, it's 30 ticks. Think of it as like 30 ticks of clearance. So when you get an output here, what that's telling you is that you have 30 ticks from the closing price to your support resistance line. So from the close of this bar up to the EMA, there's 30 ticks of clearance. And remember, each grid line is 20 ticks. So this has approximately 40 ticks of clearance right here. So you can think of this whole area in here as having 30 ticks of clearance from the closing price up to the EMA. So when the support resistance solver is headwind mode like this, what it's telling you is that if your system wants to take a short right here, it's telling you that you have at least 30 ticks of clearance to take a short into this support line. Right? So I'm sure most of you have probably been taught that you don't want to take a short, like if you're right over here into a support, because typically price is going to bounce off that support. So in headwind mode, this tells you that you have enough clearance that you have at least 30 ticks potential profit if you took a short going into the support resistance line. So vice versa over on this side. This is telling you if you guys say you got a signal down here to go long, it's telling you that you at least have 30 ticks or more to take a long into this resistance line. So it's a way of making sure that you have enough room to take a little profit before you get too close to your resistance or support line. Now, tailwind mode is the opposite. It's used for detecting potential bounces off of the support resistance line. So when price is above your support resistance line, it's telling you that you could be getting a bounce off of your support line here. Now when price breaks below, I'm going to make my candlesticks a little bigger. Hopefully it'll help you guys see. So when price is below, it's telling you that you could be getting a bounce off of resistance. And let me try and find a better example here. Yeah, like here. Here's kind of what you're looking at. Price is coming up to your resistance line right there, and this is saying that we could be getting a bounce off of it. And the distance from the your support resistance line, is determined by your distance targets. Now you can see that if I switch this back to headwind mode, it remembered my previous settings here, 30 ticks. But tailwind mode has its own settings. So let me go in there and rearrange these. So I'm going to set my ideal distance to 20 ticks. That'll be easier to see on my chart. Let's set that to 30 ticks. All right. This will be easier to see on the chart now. Yeah, so over here is a good example. Price is coming down, moving back up, and as it gets within the 20 ticks of the support resistance line, we get a signal here that we're really close and we could be getting a bounce off of it. Now there's some more advanced features with this solver, and that is to use must agree with the swing trend. And so what that is doing is that's using another indicator that detects the trend that you're in, to try and filter out some of these signals here. So if I turn this off, we're going to get a lot more signals. So you can see we're getting a lot more signals now if I turn it off versus if I turn it on. So you can see we're getting some more signals over here when I turn it off versus when I set it to true. So essentially that's kind of the basics of the support resistance solver. So once again, tailwind mode is used to try and detect when you're going to bounce off of your support resistance line. And headwind mode is telling you that you have enough clearance to take a trade into your support resistance line. So I hope that answers your question, Raul. So let's go on to some other questions here. All right. Raul, I just see that you're getting a lot of echo on my end. Is anybody else hearing echo on my end?
No, I think you're good from my perspective. Hey Zach, Anna Graham's asking
Okay.
just how to show the get the chart button to show up again. If you could just distinguish between the setup mode and real time mode again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good question. So you can see I'm in real-time mode, which real-time mode you activate from the button up here in the chart, and you'll see there's no chart button on here. So if you want to get the chart button, once I have BloodHound on my chart, what I usually do is just double-click on the output, and that brings up your indicator window. And then if you go into, so this button up here, up by the template name, this button takes you into what we call setup mode. And now you can see we have the chart button right here. And so if I click that, that will allow us to add another time frame. All right, so I could add a 5-minute time frame. And then I could put solvers down into the 5-minute time frame. So, and setup mode also allows you to switch templates. So if I wanted to, I could load up other templates that I've saved before. And so let me exit setup mode, and I'll show you that here on real-time mode. Oh, let me drag the window over here. You can see in setup mode I don't have the ability to load another template. So, and there's no chart button. So, all right. Do we have any other questions, Jeremy?
I think we had one from, let me just check back here. Randy O. He wants to know, he wants to look at the MACDs. Hang on a second. Let me just scroll back. Okay, no, Randy O didn't actually ask a specific question about the MACD, but we got one from Gaber. He wants to see a signal when the MACD crosses 0. Oh, sorry, Rahul asks, is it possible to look at the separation of the MACD with BB lines and use the headwind mode there? Rahul, I don't suppose you have a microphone, do you?
let's see, probably, so he's wanting to look at the separation of the BB lines. You know, actually, that was kind of one of the things I was going to demo if we didn't have any questions. You know, I think that would better be, a better way of doing that would be using the indicator comparison solver instead of using the support resistance. You know, they'll both do the same thing. So
Well, how about, Zach, if you don't mind, and if you don't mind, Rahul, like maybe to just preface what you're about to show, perhaps Rahul, you could ask your question in the out there so everybody can get a clear picture of what we're trying to solve. Would that be all right with you, Rahul? Okay, so I've unmuted you, Rahul, so go ahead and see if you can speak and see if everybody can hear you.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I guess Zach and Jeremy, thanks for organizing this training workshop. And I think, Zach, what you were saying is probably what I had in mind as well. On your chart between the 1:19 and 1:35 a.m., there is that MACD. If you look at it, you know, it was sort of hugging along the BB lines, and then it really separated from it. And at that time, you see the price is also pretty extended from the moving average. And the kind of signal that I'm interested in using, you know, BloodHound to analyze is once the MACD comes inside of the BB lines. So sufficient headwind, positive headwind on MACD, sufficient headwind on the price versus the EMA. Is that a good signal for a reversal trade?
Well, as far as what's, you know, trading methodology, that's very subjective. So
No. I'm just saying, you know, like in terms of, can we analyze? Can we put markers where the signal of MACD coming inside the BB lines after being separated like they are, where you have drawn the ellipse, with price being extended away from the EMA for a reversal? Is it possible to kind of mark, you know, greens and reds using BloodHound, and then, you know, how we trade it? Of course, that's not what I'm asking here, but sort of, you know, yeah, exactly. That's exactly the spot.
So you're looking for this crossover point, is what you're looking for.
For a very aggressive reversal trade, yes.
Yeah, but before that crossover, you want to see a fairly, I guess, you want to see the separation.
Exactly.
You want to see a certain amount of separation before you get a crossover. Okay. Yeah. So you know,
with price being separated as well from the EMA.
Okay. Yeah. So this is this is a great question because it can help me explain to you guys how you need to take your conditions and separate them out into the individual conditions. So what Raul really asked here is, you know, it's easy for us to think of this as like just one requirement, but when you break it down into programming, it's actually 3, maybe 4 separate conditions. I think it's only 3 right now. So the first condition is that we want to see, you know, a certain amount of separation here, a certain distance between, you know, our support resistance lines. So that's one condition, and so that'll take a solver. And another condition is to see this, you know, to see this gap between these 2 lines on the BB. And so that's another condition that requires its own solver. And then a third condition is this crossing condition. And so that's another solver that we need to detect that condition, right? So my point is to be able to separate all these individual requirements or conditions out, to separate them out, and then you can from there you can figure out which solver you would use for each one of these conditions. So I already have the solver up for detecting the separation. All I need to do is modify it. So I'm going to modify it a little bit, and instead of 40 ticks, I'll change it to, let's see, so we got like 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 ticks. So I'm going to change that one to 100 ticks. Alright, and so you can see as soon as I type that in, we can see how this changed, and I'm going to constrain it even more. Let's see what 150 ticks looks like. There we go. That constrained it pretty good. I'll tap this down a little bit and say 140 ticks. And actually, a little bit more. And this is something I would suggest that you do. No one can really guess exactly what your distance requirements are. You just kind of have to play with it, and it's kind of the beauty of why we created this real-time mode, is that you can go in there, make micro adjustments, and you can see in real time how how the look changes on your chart. So that so it makes it very quick to be able to kind of fine-tune your requirements, your conditions for each of the solvers. All right, so we have this one condition met for our separation between the support and price. The next one is we'll look at the MACD. We'll look at the separation within this area here. And I think an easiest way to doing that is to use the indicator comparison solver. And so what we're going to compare is we're going to compare the BB line to the lower line, which is, I believe it's a Bollinger Band line or a Keltner channel line. I don't remember which. All right, so for this one, our primary line that we're wanting to analyze is the BB line. So we'll set that one up as indicator A. And, I saw on there, Raul, for some reason, didn't see my answer to the question of, where you can get this BBMACD indicator. And I'll show you on the list the one that I have from Big Mike's. And it's actually called MACD. Here we go. So it's called MACD BB Lines version 4. This is the one I got from Big Mike's. It's a little more colorful than the one I have on my chart. So, alright, so I'm going to double click on the BBMACD, bring it down, and I'm just using the default settings right now. And then next we can see that there's 3 different plots that we can analyze. And so for the first plot, we're interested in analyzing the BB line here. So that's already selected by default. Now, I'm going to turn the support resistance solver off. Right. Next, for indicator B, that's going to be this lower gray line. Alright, so there's the indicator, and it's the lower line that we want to compare against. Alright, now the next step is to determine how much separation we want to detect within here. Now, since this is an indicator on its own subpanel, typically kind of depends on how the indicator is written, but typically you want your measurement to be in points. So I'm going to set both of these to points. All right, and I'm going to start working with the large amount, and I'm just going to put some numbers in here and just try and fine-tune and find out what kind of separation distance we're getting here. So I'm just going to take a guess here. That's at -400. This is at -377. So I'll just put in 20 for now. And then the next step I have to do is make sure that my output is set for what I'm looking for. And so when the BB is pointing down, we're actually wanting to get a long signal out of it instead of a short signal. So we're going to have to reverse the default settings for this solver. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to clear out the long outputs here, and I can do that by setting these my long outputs to 0. So set both those to 0. So now we can see all we have is short outputs, which are determined by these two settings here. So I can look from the description when A is less than B, right? So A is our BB line, and B, indicator B, is the upper line. And this is set by small amount. And I'm not using the small amount. Right now that's set to 0. I'm only using the large amount. So I'm going to set this to 0. And there. Now we can see what's telling us right now is that when we get our signals, we have a separation of 20 points or 20 units on the indicator value here. And so let's constrain that a little more. I'm going to put in 25. Let me constrain it a little more. Let's try 30. There we go. Let's see what 40 looks like. There. I'll use 40. That's looks pretty severe. It cut out a lot of signals from within here. All right, and then so we have the short side of it taken care of. Next, we can work on the long side, and that's just a matter of essentially using the opposite of our short. So right now we're using A less than B, and so for the long, A is going to be greater than B. So up here we can see A is the dotted line is greater than B. Well, actually no, we can't. That's right. This is a separate. This is the upper line. So we would need another solver to detect long signals for this. So what I can do is actually let me rename this. I would suggest that you always name your solvers. That way, it's just obviously easier to know which solver is working with what indicators. And I'm going to use S to denote that this particular solver is only going to give us short signals. And so if I want to use the same indicator and solver for long signals, I'll have to make a copy of it. I'll copy it, and I'm going to change the name to L for denoting that this is only going to give me long signals. And so indicator A is still going to be the BB. It's still going to stay the same. Looking at the BB line. But what I need to change is indicator B, because for longs we're actually looking at the upper line and comparing it to the BB line. So we'll change it from the lower line to analyzing the upper line.
Hey, Zach. There's just a couple people
Yes.
are mentioning that I think they're looking at the it to be the other way around, so that
The other way around.
yeah, so that you'd have your short output mimicked in the long up, like you'd swap your short and long output because they want to see the lines the other way. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Yeah, so there we go. Just change that, reverse that real quick. Oh, let me turn this other one off here. All right, so yeah, let me change the names here. And just going to make sure I have the right plots selected. Yeah, BB selected. And this one is the lower one. Right, yeah, so we're looking at the lower one. And so I can tell that I just don't have the right output used. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. Yeah, so the mistake I made was I was using the short output down here. And that, yes, so there you go. Now you can see the short output is firing. So let's set that to 0. And so when A is less than B, I want a long output. There we go. Sorry about that, guys, but good catch. So I actually kind of like it when I make mistakes because I could show you that if you make a mistake, how quickly you could fix it. All right, so this will be our short signal solver. So I'm going to turn the long off, turn the short on, and there we go. All right. So now when the BB line is above the upper line and it's greater than 40 points, that's when we're getting our signal. All right. Okay, so the last condition is we're looking for a crossover. All right. So let me put the crossover solver on here. And because we're dealing with 3 different lines, this is going to require 2 solvers as well to analyze the BB line crossing the lower one and then analyzing the BB crossing the upper line. All right, so this particular one will be used to give us long crossovers. All right, so I have to set up my indicators. All right, so we're looking for the BB line to cross the lower line. So I'll set this to lower. Oh, actually, I can set for longs. Yeah, actually, I can set this for shorts. Actually, I can set it to compare the BB line to the upper line for my shorts. And yep, there we go. So it only took 1 solver in this case. So we can see, here we go, we got a long when the BB crosses above, and when the BB crosses below the upper line, we're getting a short. All right, so we have all 3 of our conditions, and And so remember, this separation condition here actually took 2 solvers. So the next step would be to join them all together using the logic template, or sometimes we refer to this as the logic board. So I'm going to just start a new one here, and I'll just call this the BBMACD entries. Alright, so I'm going to throw all the solvers on here. And there's 2 ways of doing this. You can use the pull-down menu up here, or you can right-click in this workspace and get your solvers that way. Alright, so let me see how I want to separate these out. Okay. So this solver, I can see by looking at the name, this solver is going to give us our long signals for the MACD. So I'm going to put this up above, put this one down below, and these 2 solvers are giving us both long and short conditions. So I'm going to put them in the middle and put these above and below. And the next step is, since our signal requires 3 conditions, and let's see, yeah, 3 conditions, and they're not all occurring at the same time. So let me just think about the logic here. So we need the separation to occur at the same time that this separation occurs. So that's going to require an AND logic. I'll put the AND logic in here. And let's see. So this solver is our support resistance, which is looking at our separation up here. I'll plug that in. And then the BBMACD comparison solver is looking at this separation down here. I'll plug this in, connect it to the result, and there you go. We can see when both of these conditions occur at the same time, we get a signal coming from BloodHound. And then the next condition is the crossover. And so, oops. Now the crossover is always going to occur after these conditions, after these 2 separation conditions are met. So what we're going to have to do is set these 2 solvers to a look-back period, or we're going to have to displace them. So I'll show you. So if I connect our crossover solver right into the result instead, we can see it's it's occurring here on this bar. But our other 2 conditions are occurring 2 bars back. So I'm going to displace these conditions by 2 bars. So the way I can do that is I can work within the logic tab. As you can see, when I select a solver, all the solver properties show up right here, and I can just work within this area here if I like. So let me displace indicator A by 2 bars, and I'm going to displace indicator B by 2 bars. And then next, I'll displace the support resistance. There we go. There we go. Now you can see it moved our signal forward by two bars. So now the signal is occurring right here on this crossing. And so now I can plug in the crossing, and there's our signal. So, right, so that's for the longs. And next, let me, I think this will give us a short here. Let's find out. So I'm going to add another AND node for the shorts. And I can connect these two solvers right into this AND node. And we'll plug, let's see what, okay, so this solver is analyzing the BB short conditions up here. And so this solver needs to be displaced as well. I'll displace it by 2. And I'm just going to test it out here by plugging it into the result node. Okay. So, yeah, we can see it's not, I guess our conditions aren't being met on this one bar because our signal isn't being pushed forward to the cross condition. So I'm just going to force this to work by displacing it 3 bars. Okay, so now we have a signal when the MACD is crossing here. So, and now I can take the AND node right into the result node, and no, I guess those indicators didn't cross right there on that particular bar. It probably happened 1 bar later. But we do have, let's see. No, this isn't. That's not a signal there. Okay, so I'm going to force. Let's see. I'm going to force this solver to look back even further. Still not showing it. So I'll walk you through the process of how I would debug this to find out why I'm not getting a signal. So I'm going to connect this solver into the result node and look at where my signal is occurring. So the last one, alright, so I'm just marking the last bar that our signal occurs on. And I'm going to look at just this one solver here. And oh, right. Okay. So that's what's happening. This solver, which is our support resistance solver, which we can see here, is detecting the minimum separation. Right. We don't have any separation here. So that's why we're not getting a signal. So let's look through the chart and see if we can find an area that would work. Well, I'm not seeing anything on my chart that would work, that would give us a short signal. Yeah, I don't see any spot that would meet all 3 requirements. Well, yeah, maybe we can get this area to work. It looks like we might have enough separation there on the BB line. So I'll try and force this area to work. So what I'll need to do is lower my requirements for this separation here between price and our support resistance. And that's about 60 ticks. Okay, so there we have a signal for this condition. Now let's check. All right, this is our MACD crossing. We have a crossing there. Now I'll check. This is the separation between the BB line and the upper line, and I'll have to lower that. Let's just set that to 20. Actually, I'm going to set this back to a 0 displacement. Alright, yeah, so on that one bar, we have enough separation. The next step is just to displace it the right amount. So it looks like about 3 bars. Okay, so I think, let's see, we're missing just one of these conditions, so let me take a look again. So that looks like that's occurring, right? Must be this solver here. Oh yeah, this solver stopped giving a signal 1 bar before the crossing, and so I'll force this to work by modifying the displacement just a little bit, 1 more bar. And oh, I had the wrong. Yeah, always make sure you have the right solver selected. So, alright, so I have this solver selected, and I'll modify the displacement. There we go. I'll set it to 3. And let me try 4. Well, let me just lower the separation requirements. Let's see if 50 ticks will work. There we go. Alright, so now that I've confirmed that all of my solvers will give me a signal on this bar, yep, now I can plug the AND node into the result node, and there's our signal that we forced to happen. So, alright, so now if we want to both see long and short signals together, we'll have to use an OR node. And I can plug the AND nodes in here, plug the OR node into the result, and we should have both long and short signals. There we go, so we still have this long signal. And yeah, we can see we almost got a signal here. Looks like one of the conditions wasn't quite being met. It's probably our distance here, separation here. wasn't quite met. So that's why it didn't quite give us a signal. Yeah. Let's see. I can load some more data on the chart. No, I guess our conditions are just too constrained to get a lot of signals for this particular signal. So, but that essentially is showing you how to combine 3 conditions to make a complete signal. So I hope I've answered that sufficiently. So, Jeremy, do you see any other questions?
It looks like Randy was following along there. He's pretty sharp. It looks like he caught a lot of the stuff before he had a chance to look at it. But he says thanks.
Okay, great. Yeah, I probably went pretty fast for some people. I'm sorry about that. But you know, we have a training session every weekend, and just to let you guys know, you know, on the weekends, almost always available to do some one-on-one with you guys, and you know, maybe even possible just to do a small class if you know, if a couple of you, you know, would like some one-on-one or a small group training on the weekend, I can do that too. So you know, just if you'd like some one-on-one, just send us an email or send me an email, and we'll schedule some time together. Also, I'd like to show you I'm available on Skype on the weekends. So for those of you who are using Skype, let's see, Skype's not showing my, oh, here we go. So if you're using Skype, you can look me up. My Skype name here is Zach White, SI, for SharkIndicators. And I'll be using this Skype name on the weekends. So if you see me on the weekends, you know, you can just see if I'm here, and we can do some one-on-one training. So.
Raul asks, I assume it's only for paid customers. No, this is also available for any of you that are trying it out as well. So no problem, just hit us up, and of course we recognize that you know, we want you to feel comfortable before you purchase BloodHound, and then obviously we want you to know that it does what you intend it to do. You know, and so we'd be glad to show you you know, how to solve your basically your trading system before you purchase it. So no problem at all. Just you can inquire at the on the website. We have contact us. You can inquire there, or you can either email Zach White at SharkIndicators.com or myself, Jeremy Tang, at SharkIndicators.com. So either one will work. I think it was Raul actually had a. I'm just looking back here. He said something about the tailwind and the headwind. Essentially, Raul, you can set the support and resistance solver to use either mode, tailwind or headwind, and if you need the functionality of both, like, it doesn't switch automatically. Once you set it to tailwind mode, it's set to tailwind mode. But if you need the functionality of both, you just basically create 2 solvers with the exact same settings, presumably, and just set one to headwind, so set one to tailwind, and then tie them together with an OR node.
Okay. Do we have any other good questions there?
Tom just asked if we could use TeamViewer. We certainly can. We could use GoToMeeting, and that'll let us record it. And I believe, I'm not sure if you guys do you have like a record button on your end as well when you're using GoToMeeting? We don't see what the attendees setup is, but do you guys have a record button on your side as well, or? No, okay, no problem. But with GoToMeeting, we're able to record it. So if we do a one-on-one session and we use GoToMeeting, probably the easiest way for everybody, because we just have the technology available, and there's no installation. We can record it on our end and then send you the recording when it's done.
Yeah, I'd also just like to note that TeamViewer is great. We love it, but it is a licensed product and it's free for private use. But just keep in mind, we're a business, and so we would be violating their license agreement. And so we do have a paid subscription to GoToMeeting, and that's why we prefer to use GoToMeeting. So that way we're not violating their copyright and their licensing agreement. So I have definitely used TeamViewer a lot in the past, so I love the product, but we just don't have a license with them. So. Yeah.
Okay, I want to bring up a point that Barry Miller brought up earlier, and what his concern was that this having BloodHound on the chart and whatnot, that's great and all, but what about statistical analysis? How do you know if your system is actually successful? Now the answer to that is if you've ever done any strategy development in NinjaTrader, and NinjaTrader's got this fantastic tool called the NT Strategy Analyzer, and those of you that are familiar with it know that it's extremely powerful, and it allows you to track how many years back you've got of data. Could be 10 years if you have the data for it, and you have a system, and you want to see how profitable it would have been to trade that system over time, for that long period of time. That's basically the only way to know for sure statistically that your system, is works over that long period. Because obviously, just even having BloodHound on the charts, you maybe can pull in 30 days of data or 5 days of data, but the human eye, you could, even though you're scrolling back and forth and say, oh, these days look good, like they could have made money, until you do the statistical analysis, you don't really know. So BloodHound actually is fully compatible with the NinjaTrader Strategy Analyzer. The one caveat I'd like to mention, though, is, again, BloodHound is more of a logic engine and entry engine, so it's not a trade manager. So if you've had any experience with the Strategy Analyzer in the past, and obviously you've probably coded up a few strategies by yourself, and so you know how to do this. But what you can use BloodHound for is use it as the logic entry engine, and then you can use your trade management code on top of it to manage the trades. And then essentially what you've got at that point is basically a full-blown automated trading system, or a robot trader. So those of you that are into that and need the statistical analysis, I can put together maybe a short demo next Wednesday, showing kind of how you would go about using the strategy analyzer with BloodHound, and how quickly you can just change your logic entry code and have the results pop into strategy analyzer. So we can use the there's a couple example strategy files up on the website, and it's basically on the documentation side, the very bottom on the right hand side in the table of contents there, and those are just some examples of how you'd incorporate the signals. So there's no trade management code in there, so those of you that kind of done this before will know that you'd have to set the stops to some value, obviously, for it to constitute a valid trade. So I can set something up for next week, just demoing using the strategy analyzer and using some of the example files we have up there. If there's, is there anybody that would like to see that other than, say, Barry? I suppose that he would. Okay, sorry, I'm just reading the questions here. So Barry's asking, what's the value in terms of how does it improve the process of building indicators? Well, if you've ever built an indicator before and sort of dived into the code of doing the logic, to say doing something what Zach just did, even if you're an advanced coder like Zach as well is a fairly advanced coder, and if you've ever seen our main demo. Coding up logic it simply just takes a lot of time, and so if you're a programmer and you're debating kind of what's the added value of BloodHound, most certainly if you're developing a system and if you've ever done it before and you realize there's a lot of trial and error involved in terms of you're writing the code up, you're creating your custom indicator for your entries. You compile it, you got to debug it, you got to test it, and then you finally can run it through the strategy analyzer. And you have to go through that development cycle every time that you make a tweak or a change. So what BloodHound lets you do is basically skip those steps, and you could visually and very quickly create your entry logic, and it allows you to work much faster.
Yeah,
Bob?
just so I could expand upon that. Just writing up these 3 conditions, there's no way I could have done that in this class at this time. That would have taken probably a good hour. And I managed to code up these conditions for you guys in just a matter of minutes. And what took longer than a few minutes was the fact that I could just go in here, like into my SupportResistance solver, and I can go in and test various settings for the SupportResistance for this one condition. I can go in here and I can change my settings on the fly, and I can see the changes on the chart instantly versus having to open the editor, make the change, compile it, and then refresh the chart. So that right there, I can do it, make a setting change in a matter of seconds, and see what it looks like on the chart. So that's the big advantage of BloodHound. And if I want to change my condition, all I need to do is add another solver, and I don't have to type up that logic code, in the editor. So,
Okay, Bob. Actually, if you're there, I unmuted your mic. You mentioned sort of in the questions area that you have a comment or so. Oh, I remember Bob had some mic issues last time we had him on.
I'm here.
Oh, there he is.
there he is.
Yeah. In one of our conversations, Jeremy and I talked about some of the weaknesses of NinjaTrader in order management, and he said, well, that just happens to be my next product. So I was kind of curious, and I thought maybe the other attendees to this workshop would be interested in hearing what he has to say about what's coming up.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Bob. So yeah, the next product is called Falcon, and so BloodHound is basically the interactive logic engine, and the idea behind the strategy is that you've got the logic entry now. Now, what do you do with it? Now, obviously, you need the trade management side of it as well, something that will manage your stops, and we're working on a second product called Falcon, which is going to just do that, and it's going to incorporate BloodHound. So, and those of you that have purchased BloodHound, no need to fret. The pricing will be structured so you're not at any disadvantage, and in fact, we might be giving you some incentive for previous BloodHound owners advantageous pricing for being sort of an early adopter. But BloodHound is going to be incorporated into Falcon, and Falcon is going to manage the trades. And it's currently perfectly compatible with the NT Strategy Analyzer. I don't have a release date for it yet, and that's just because a product like this essentially will allow you to create a full-blown automated trading robot without touching code. And obviously you'd be able to analyze the trades and whatnot in Strategy Analyzer. But when we get to this kind of level of automation, obviously it has to be rock solid, and we want to definitely put it through the ringer, and before we release it, and anybody's putting real money down on it, that it's not going to fail on them. And certainly, I wouldn't, even though it will be an automated trading, a fully blown automated trader, I wouldn't recommend anyone to walk away from it and just let it go. It definitely needs to be monitored. And this goes for anybody that, in fact, NinjaTrader has the same warning on their website as well. If you developed any strategy by hand and it does auto trading for you, you certainly want to be monitoring it no matter what, just because at any given time the market could do something on you and you didn't account for it, and your trading robot may not react the way you want it to, so you'd have to be there to shut it down. So that we're shooting for. Unfortunately, I can't give you a release date for that. It's going to depend a lot on how many resources we can gather from now till our projected release date, which is we're trying to shoot for this year. But just rest assured that having a working knowledge of how BloodHound works will be highly beneficial to the use of Falcon, because again, it incorporates Falcon from the logic perspective, and even like when it drives the stops and where it places it and stuff like that, there's different conditions that you can set. You can pull in different time frames to change the stops, and all that stuff is built upon the logic power of BloodHound. Let's go through the questions. So yeah, thanks for that, Bob. All right, so just pardon me. I'm going to go through the questions here and see if there's anything we're missing. Yeah, Randy, thanks a lot. Obviously, it sounds like you pretty much know this product. Randy, by the way, is a customer. He's just asking some questions, but throughout the presentation, I noticed he was catching a lot of the errors that Zach was working on. So it's obvious to me that Randy, you know this product quite well, and I'm very happy to hear that. I mean, BloodHound's only been out for a month, and part of the challenge that we're trying to overcome is people see the value of BloodHound in terms of once you get over that learning curve of what it's capable of. But the hurdle that a lot of people are facing is it's difficult, and those of you that have given it a shot, I mean, we're definitely here to support you in any way possible to show you how you can do what you're trying to accomplish. Once you've kind of gone up over that hurdle, it's not that bad. It's a really, again, it's a product designed for power, and so we could have taken sort of two different paths to developing this, and one was to sort of make it a really dumbed down and easy version. But the problem is, because traders have so many different conceptions of what a trading system is, we needed to build the power in there and the raw logic. So part of that is just kind of overcoming that learning curve, and once you have overcome the learning curve, it sort of opens up a new world in terms of you're able to create these strategies on the fly really quickly and analyze them. Tom asks, okay, yeah, there's a few questions. There's a question here about custom bar types. You can actually you can put BloodHound on a custom bar type. A custom bar type, for those of you guys just wondering what that is if you downloaded, say, a bar chart from Big Mike's trading forum or some other forum, and it's not one that's, say, included with NinjaTrader. You can instantiate BloodHound on that chart, but just right now, and I've been talking with the development team, and I've been talking with NinjaTrader. Right now, there is no way an indicator like BloodHound, or a strategy for that matter, can instantiate a custom bar type on the fly within the program itself. So you know how basically when you saw Zach add those charts, yeah, exactly. Thanks, Zach. When he's adding those charts in this mode here, what BloodHound is doing is it's actually instantiating those charts in memory, so to speak. And it's behind the scenes, so it doesn't correlate to any chart you've got open on your screen. It's basically opening up a chart hidden from your view and used to calculate stuff, basically calculate stuff from for the BloodHound indicator. So using a custom bar type here is currently not supported by NinjaTrader. So we're working with them to see if they can change that so that we can get custom bar types in there. And rest assured, as soon as NinjaTrader supports that, we'll be jumping on top of that. I'm not going to promise anything, but I am working on a potential fix for that. It'd be something that I'm not sure is entirely possible to do, but it's something we're looking into because enough customers are using custom bar types.
Yeah, you can see I added a custom bar type on here, and it seems to work. The issue that we come up with is some of the custom bar types, particularly like the line break bar type. Yeah, we can see it populated values here, but this is NinjaTrader's. If we add a custom one, yeah, you can see I added this custom one, and it didn't give me all the proper input parameters. So that's the issue with using custom ones, and NinjaTrader doesn't support that right now. So like Jeremy said, he's trying to find a workaround for that. So, but if I use NinjaTrader's built-in line break, you can see all the necessary parameters come up. It's only when you're working with a custom one. See, not all the parameters come up that are needed. So, but if we're working with something simple like the Renko, so this is NinjaTrader's Renko, and it only has one input, the brick size. And most of the custom Renkos, like the better Renko, which I got off of Big Mike's, only has one input value. And so, like the better Renko, it does seem to work for multiple time frames.
Okay, Alfred's got a quick question here. Does NT support polling recalculation? It sure does. You just it's basically called, on each indicator there is a setting called calculate on bar close, and typically that's set to true, which means it won't you won't get a data coming in until the bar closes, and your indicators won't update until bar closes. But you just set that value to false, and actually, Zach, why don't you just demo that real quick, and maybe take one of the EMAs that you got there, and change it to set the COBC setting to false, and then basically any data that comes in on a tick per tick basis, literally any trade data that comes from your provider will update the data. So yeah, now BloodHound, this is version 1.03, and we fixed a lot of issues with the calculate on bar close. So those of you guys that have been trying to use calculate on bar close and seeing maybe not results that you're completely expecting. I apologize for that, but 1.03 is the version that Zach is using right now, and we're scheduled to release it for next week, and it's got all the calculate on bar close settings done properly, I should say. So Alfred, I hope that answers your question. So there's two modes in NinjaTrader kind of terminology, and that's calculate on bar close true or calculate on bar close false. And so if you set it to false, then essentially it's updating as every tick of price data comes in, rather than just updating values on the bar close. Okay, so I think that's it for questions. Is everybody good? Because next week I'll plan again to work on something, cook something up for the strategy analyzer. If you have anything specific, maybe a system or an example that you need for us to show, simply don't hesitate to either email one of us or post it in the forum there. We'll catch it. And we'll try to make a demo out of it. But other than that, I think we're pretty good here.
All right. Yeah, this was a good hour and a half session. So let's see.
Yeah, I wish there was some way to actually There's another way. If you guys want to sort of keep your comments and questions like in the public forum, go ahead and do you guys have a chat window there? Because you can actually put it there as well. Because right now, if you throw it into the questions window, which is what we're seeing right now, I don't believe everybody can see your comments. So only Zach and I can. So
right.
Yeah,
let me kind of show you guys. Yeah, down here in your chat window.
Oh, yeah, by the way, Zach,
to select. So by
go
default,
GoToMeeting is smart enough to hide that window, so you actually don't see it. So GoToMeeting makes that window transparent, if you will, like it.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're not seeing it. Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you seeing these options? Are the options showing up?
No, nothing is. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Darn. Oh well. Well, I was just trying to show you in the chat window. There's a pull down, and you can specify where your chat goes. So I think by default, for the attendees, it's sent to send question to staff. So if you want to send a comment out to everybody, you can change that to all entire audience, and it actually puts it in the chat window instead of the question window. But,
sorry, Barry's asking where's that chat window. I'm not sure if you can. I mean, I've got a chat window right here. I'm just going to type in it. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's basically a separate window labeled chat. And it should be on your sidebar there. Okay, so
it should be going up on the control panel somewhere.
So I'm going to post Big Mike's trading. Big Mike's trading is it just Big Mike's trading or Big Mike trading?
No, it's singular, Mike.
Okay, Big Mike. Sorry. And Barry's just asking, what is this website? So it's Big Mike Trading, right?
Yeah, here you go.
.com. Okay.
All right. So right here, yeah, you can see it's
KY is asking, how do we audibilize the signals? There's an option in there. I hope if you make sure you've got the latest version there. KY, is it Kai? Pardon me if I'm butchering her name. But you can in the BloodHound settings. And Zach, why don't you just bring it up? Just Control I. Yeah.
You have to go to setup mode.
Yeah, setup mode, and you can see there's a play alert sound there. Just set that to true, and set it to alert sound file. Now, just one caveat: this alert sound was working a little kooky in 1.02, and it's fixed, so it works quite nicely in 1.03. So if you want, I can send you the 1.03 before we release it for next week, Kai. Otherwise, we're shooting for Monday. We just want the weekend to test it and make sure that it's good. So we've been working on 1.03 for about 3 or 4 weeks now. So it's got a lot of little fixes in there and some minor little features that customers have been asking for. Okay, so Kai's got one more thing about divergence signaling. Again, we're working on that. Zach's actually got a divergence indicator that he plans on marketing separately. So at the moment, like again with BloodHound, you can incorporate any sort of indicator you'd like into it, and certainly when Zach's indicator is complete, you'll be able to plug that into BloodHound, and certainly we'll be testing that to make sure it works. But that's sort of a separate product. That's more or less under Zach's domain. But I guess when that's ready, we'll certainly announce it in the webinar. And there's a couple of people looking for divergence as a possible indicator. So
yeah, I'm waiting on getting my licensing from NinjaTrader, yeah, if you want to kind of demo it, I have a free version I posted up on Big Mike's a couple years back when I first started writing it. But it's just purely visual right now. It doesn't have any outputs for BloodHound. So the one that I have right now, I've had various people on Big Mike's, ask me to customize it for them, for their strategies and stuff like that. So I've taken that one, and it's got more options and features and everything, and so that's what I'll be marketing, and just waiting on getting my site up and my licensing from NinjaTrader. And it's an indicator that will feed a signal into BloodHound. Or if you're writing your own custom strategies, it'll feed a signal into that as well. Alright, just looking through some other questions here. Oh, yeah, let's see, way back up top, I had mentioned to someone I would show them an example of what they asked. Let me find that.
I think we're pretty good there, Zach. If any of you guys, if we missed your question, you can just type it in now. Otherwise, I think what I'll do is I'll wrap this up, and we can certainly meet again next week. Certainly take what you've seen today and
yeah. Jeremy Gabor asked if I could demo the MACD crossing 0. So I can just do that real quick
right.
here.
Of course. We forgot about that one. Sorry about...
A nice simple one. So
is it Gabor or Gabor? I'm sorry, not pronounced correctly.
Yeah, sorry for not pronouncing your name correctly. All right, so that'll just use the crossover solver, and I'll add that to the chart. And that's all right. And so this is just for just the plain MACD. All right, so we're wanting the MACD to cross the 0 line. So our primary line that we're looking at is the MACD line. So indicator A will be the MACD line. All right, and we want to analyze the MACD line. And indicator B is the 0 line. So that would be an absolute value. So we're looking for the MACD line to cross an absolute value of 0. And although, you know what, I don't have the MACD on my chart, so let me use the BBMACD instead. Yeah, so BBMACD crossing the 0, and because I'm using a logic template, I'm going to have to add that solver on here and plug it into the result node. So there we go. So the 0 line is the cyan dotted line. You can see we get a buy signal when it crosses above 0, and here it just barely crossed. You know, it just barely crosses below 0, and we got a sell, and it popped back up for a buy again. And there's another sell as it crosses below, and another buy as it crosses above. So let me just bring that solver back up. So make sure I have the right solver selected. Alright, so that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the indicator line crossing a fixed value, or an absolute value, which is the 0 line in this case. Alright. So if you're looking for a crossing condition of, say, like the stochastic crossing the 20 or crossing the 80, you would have your stochastic indicator up here, and you would just put in 20, 20 here, or 80. All right. So, okay, there we go. Got that one answered. All right. Well, I think we'll leave it there, guys. I really appreciate it. I need to get going, and I believe Jeremy does too. So, all right.
Bercy, you've got one more question. I don't suppose, Zach, maybe we could do this one really quick. He just wants to see moving averages, but just on different time frames. If you could just show how you add the time frames, and you can just add the solvers to different time frames. It's relatively simple.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I did actually have that planned. So I came prepared. So this is a 15-minute time frame. Let's see, gold. Okay. So let me go into real-time mode and match my secondary time frame up to my chart. So this needs to be a 15-minute chart. All right, and 15-minute. And okay, let's just do a simple crossing. Add that, and so there we go. We'll do this as a 10:30 crossing. Right, 10, and then this one will be the 30 SMA. And let's see, we can see up here, yeah, we have 10 and 30. Okay. And once again, I'm going to have to plug that particular solver into the result node because I have this logic template defined. So let me just add that solver on here. And so you can see now that this solver is on the 15-minute chart. So right, so all the solvers on the default time frame show up here. The solvers on the 15-minute chart show here. And so I'll just plug this in there into the result node. And let's see, I have global crosshairs turned on. So there you go. You can see on the 15-minute chart here, if you watch my cursor, you can see here that crossing shows up on this tick chart. Let me just go a little further back. Alright, there's a cross down. So you can see that the dashed orange line defines midnight. And so on the 15-minute chart over here, we have a crossing down. And there it is. It's marked right here on this chart for that crossing. Alright, and let's see this one, this cross above. Yep. So you can see on the 15-minute chart there, you can see my crosshairs moving back and forth, and it falls in line with what's being marked on the tick chart here. Alright. So
Just want to point out one last thing. With the crossovers on separate time frames, the reason why you're sort of seeing 3 bars instead of like just like 1 bar is because the 15-minute bar that had the last cross, basically when the crossover occurred, that 15-minute bar is still open, and the crossover is still in effect, if you will, on the 15-minute bar. So that's sort of an issue whenever you see, when you're using multiple time frames, is when you're timing sort of discrete moments or discrete events like this. And so sometimes it's preferable, instead of using a crossover, to use an indicator comparison. You know, if maybe you're, you know, maybe you don't need the actual, you know, the actual crossover event, but you're just concerned that you want, you know, say the fast line to be below the slow line or something like that. And you use indicator comparison, and that way it's always got a kind of a it's more of a filter rather than a signal generator. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense here, but what I'm getting at is when you got discrete signals like this, and you're using different time frames, and you're trying to tie this into logic, then essentially your signals won't match up unless things happen at the exact same time. So you get the crossover, and then you get some other signal happening on the exact same time on different charts, which is sometimes difficult to line up properly. So okay, well, I think that's good for today. Thanks a lot for attending, guys. I've seen today was a pretty good webinar, and I hope you guys learned a lot. So next week, same time, same show. We've basically made the registration, so you just have to register once, and now you can just attend as many as you'd like. And Zach and I have been talking about possibly doing weekend ones if there's enough demand. So if you want to do a weekend one, you know, just holler out to us on the email or on the forums, and if there's enough noise and the demand, we'll work that out within our schedules and whatnot. Other than that, thanks for attending. And Zach, do you have any last words? Or
just once again, don't be afraid to add me on Skype, and if I'm available at night or in the morning, you know, I'll have my Skype turned on, and if I'm there, go ahead and chat with me. And you know, if we both have time, we'll jump in our GoToMeeting and do a quick training session. So that's what I'm here for. And also, you could send me an email to try and schedule time with me as well. So, I do. I have a day job, so I work in the evenings. So I have, you know, about an hour and a half available in the morning, and about an hour at night, late at night. So, but for now, I'm gonna have to sign off because I gotta go to work. So, all right. So, yeah. So that's about it for me. All right. So thanks, guys. Thanks for attending, and these were great questions. I'd rather field your guys' questions than try and just make up something. I had a plan, but I'd rather answer your guys' questions instead. So, all right, thanks.
all right, thanks a lot.